Now, that was about physical aspects, right? Now let us look at a funny story here. So a lot of you have kids at home. So very common question these days, not these days, kids ask is that why do people get married? Why do people get married? Silja is smiling, so she knows that, okay, she has been asked this question a few times, I guess. Okay, so this small baby, okay, maybe 2 or 3 years old, he goes and asks his parents, "Now, why are people getting married?" Now, it is a very complicated question, even for us to answer, right? So, but we have to give an answer. So, father goes like, when you get married, you get lots of toys as presents. Lots of toys as presents, right? So you get to play with lot of toys, right? And that is why they're getting married. Child is happy. Now child thinks that, okay, he also wants to get married so that he will also get lots of toys. So the only thing the child is thinking about is getting married, right? Because he's going to get lots of toys. Then after some time, child has another question. Papa, 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 how is a baby formed? How is a baby formed? And then Papa doesn't have the time to explain all of this. Papa says, okay, Mama will explain, okay? Mama will explain. And Mama goes like, oh, now I have to explain. And Mama goes like, see, beta, when you play with these toys, when both of them, husband and wife play with these toys for some time, too much time, the God decides to give them a new toy, and that is the baby. Okay. And the boy is happy. Small boy, right? Good explanation. Now, this is a story which is very common in all of our houses, right? Especially if you are married, you will face this issues with kids, right? These questions. Now, how do we relate that with yogic philosophy? Asta didn't get good sleep last night, so she's like, how do we connect this with yogic philosophy? Interesting story, right? How do we connect this now with yogic philosophy? So, some 6,000 years back, we had amazing scientists back in India. Super scientists. They used to do a lot of research, and came up with a lot of ideas on how the whole universe works, how our mind works. All of this, they did hundreds of years of research. Okay, and all this research was compiled together in books. These were called our Vedas. Right? These are all scientific research done on the universe and on your mind itself, on how the whole universe was created. So they wrote all these books. Then they started explaining. See, they have done a lot of research, right? Now just imagine you are sitting with a scientist who is doing atomic research, and the scientist is coming and explaining to Silja how bosons work. Silja, do you know what boson is? Now the complexities of how the boson is working, right? Is it a particle? Is it a wave? The scientist is explaining to Silja. Silja will say that, see, I have got dosha to make in the kitchen. You finish fast. Okay, otherwise I'm going to make dosha. Kids are getting hungry. Let me go and make dosha. Right? So the same thing happened. All these rishis are spiritual scientists, right? The rishis, thousands of years back. So they started explaining to people, and people said that we wanted to go and make doshas. You sit and talk about all of this. Okay, let us go and make dosha. Okay, we are all busy doing our day-to-day work, right? People were not interested. But the rishis have done so much of research. Now rishis have to, somehow convey this message to people, because they are so excited, right? They know that it is beneficial to people to understand this. So they want to explain to people properly. So they are trying their best. So then they came up with a trick. So they took the essence of the story, essence of the research, and they combined that essence, or input that essence into nice stories. God, goddesses, nice god with lots of muscle and with a trishul and an eye here, right? And a beautiful Devi, right? Another god, who is always smiling, who has got a peacock feather here and a flute. Lot of stories came about gods, goddesses, lot of things. And they embedded the whole philosophy, or not philosophy, the science which they realized after research into these stories. Right? And they started giving it out to people. And there were practical applications. If you listen to those stories, there are certain morals, there are certain practical applications you can apply into your daily life. So people started following that, okay, for their own well-being. They started following what the gods and goddesses were doing, and the special characteristics of that. They started doing, okay, then there was communal order. That was all fine. Now the same thing happened across the world. There were spiritual scientists not only in India. There were spiritual scientists in Jerusalem, okay, in Saudi Arabia. Lot of spiritual scientists happening across the world. And all of them realized the same truth. But they explained it in a way like the child, explaining to the child, and explained it in a way how the child understands it. Child understands toys, so you have to explain it in a way of toys, right? You cannot complicate things with the child. You have to explain it in the same terms, toys, play with toys, that way. Then the child understands it. So same way across the world, all these scientists explained the same thing in slightly different manner so that the people across the world understand it. Now that is one thing. But what happened was, after so many years, all these books which was written by these scientists got interpreted by people like us, right? When we interpret these books, these research books, first of all, research books are very complicated, right? If you read research books, it's very difficult to understand. So you understand it with your own background, and you start interpreting it with your own background. So the actual essence was slightly getting lost. And this happened for thousands of years. When it happened for thousands of years, a lot of essence is actually lost. So this is what has happened over so many years. The research which was done and explained in our Vedas or other books slightly got distorted and lost. Now, what are we trying to do today with Holistic Yoga? With Holistic Yoga, we are trying to dig out that research, the actual research, okay, without any bias, okay, and have a discussion. Right? This is what we are trying to do. So the research was done. So we want to go back to the original research, not the interpretations. The original research, okay, and have a discussion. And I guarantee you, any of these research papers you take and read, what you read will be different entirely from what Sirja reads or Asta reads. Right? Because each person will interpret it slightly differently. And that is where satsang comes into play. Satsang is about sitting together and understanding, discussing, understanding. This is what we are trying to